Fallout 4 is one of the most fun open world RPGs Bethesda or hell anyone has ever made, while simultaneously being one of, if not the worst, Fallout in the series.
Excluding tactics and brotherhood steel, we're not going to talk about those, brother.
But how? How could the Fallout that immediately follows Fallout New Vegas be a bad Fallout? Today we're going to be looking at just that and why Fallout 4 is a great game, but a bad Fallout. But before we go any further, I do want to go ahead and fair warn you, for the next 3 weeks my uploads will be nothing but Fallout reviews of the first person Fallouts. We're going to of course start with Fallout 4, and then we're going to work our way down to Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3. So be on the lookout for those coming soon, promise. Now fuck all that, let's get to the criteria. The first part of our criteria will be atmosphere. Pretty self-explanatory, the setting and the atmosphere. Story. What's the story of the games? I should also be mentioning that each of these criteria will be fitting in the DLCs. Characters. Who's cool and who's not. Mechanics. How does your game function? And how did you intend it to function? I should also note that this video is not scripted. This is going to be straight heart, brother. Heart. Now with that criteria out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the video. Fallout 4, without a doubt, is the most colorful of any Fallout. Look at the previous Fallouts. How does that make you feel? Kind of gross inside. I don't want to look at that. Whereas Fallout 4 is, might I use the word fucking gorgeous? Also really like the random fights that happen, like the Brotherhood of Steel and the Synths fucking going at it for some reason. You could legit just be walking in the middle of the Commonwealth and out of nowhere your screen rattles, you hear an explosion, look behind you, and there's 4 guys fighting in total. Also, the Commonwealth is a very interesting place for Fallout to take place. I don't know, maybe just for me, the Boston aesthetic fits Fallout very nicely. There's one downside to the atmosphere in my opinion, and that is the lack of unique settlements. Most of the settlements in the game are DIYFS, do it your fucking self. Meaning the game doesn't really create a whole lot of settlements that people on their own just run. A big example of a unique settlement in Fallout 4 is Covenant, and it's one of the most memorable missions in the game. I personally think it's the lack of unique settlements, given that Covenant is one of the only side missions that includes a unique settlement. Excuse me, a unique settlement that isn't Diamond City. And there are lots of named locations, don't get me wrong there. There are just very few that are strictly unique to a settlement. Now let's move on to the DLCs. I personally think the Fall Harbor DLC is one of, if not the best Fallout DLC ever made, and I think the setting helps that case. The atmosphere of being on this mysterious island in the midst of a tribal war between 3 factions that want control of it. All while the island is covered in a radioactive mist that makes it very difficult to traverse the island. It's honestly a very dark and kind of scary atmosphere where you're scared to venture out because you can't see clearly in front of you.
It's so fucking misty.
It's not that misty. It's not that misty. And lastly, Nuka World. We're going to get into Nuka World later, and you're going to see that I'm not really hot on this DLC, but I will fully give credit to the atmosphere. This amusement park that not so long ago was ran by just a group of traders, now under Raider rule, is so fucking cool. There are different sections to the map as if it were a Disney World or Disneyland sized amusement park, which I think is really cool. Overall, the atmosphere of this DLC is just very fun. We're going to get into more about this DLC. You're going to see I'm not too hot on it, but for now, the atmosphere is fucking sick. Next, let's take a look at the story of Fallout 4 itself. I want to first run you down the main story of the game and explain some of the main factions, and then we'll get into the personal views and opinions. The story of Fallout 4 starts with you, Nate, in his pre-war house with his family, Nora and Sean. For clarification, we're going to be using Nate. He's like the canon guy, so you can interchange it with Nora, but for this video, we're going to call the lone survivor Nate. While traversing the pre-war house, the TV alerts Nate that the bombs are dropping and that he needs to report to the nearest vault. Luckily for Nate, him and his family have a reserved spot in Vault 101. Upon arrival, Nate and his family are duped into getting into cryogenic freezers. It is here that Nate and his family will lie for hundreds of years. At some point during the freezing, someone comes and kidnaps your son Sean and shoots your wife Nora in the head.
Manual override initiated. Cryogenic freezes suspended. 1. Here.
Open it.
Are we okay?
Almost. Everything's gonna be fine.
Come on. No, I've got him.
Let the boy go. I'm only gonna tell you once.
I'm not giving you Sean.
Get out of here. Let's go. At least we still have a backup.
Cryogenic sequence. Reinitialize.
After seeing his wife be shot and his son be took, Nate falls back asleep in his cryogenic freezer, only to awake again, this time escaping the vault. It is at this point the main story of Fallout 4 becomes finding your son. It is during these travels that the player comes across 4 main factions who want control of the Commonwealth. Faction number 1, the Minutemen. These guys pretty much just want to help Wastelanders. It's like their whole gig. Faction 2, the Brotherhood of Steel. We're all pretty familiar with the Brotherhood of Steel. If you're not familiar with the Brotherhood of Steel, they're like obsessed with taking advanced technology from regular citizens to, quote, protect them from themselves. Seems pretty egotistical. The Railroad, who only give a fuck about sense. They like only care about sense. And the Institute, where they are just a bunch of underground nerds making robots to send to the surface to, I don't know, fuck with people. I really don't get it. I'm pretty sure they're just a bunch of underground nerds. Remember that information. It'll be important later. Nate, or the Lone Wanderer, continues his search for his son, inevitably finding him at the Institute, only to come to find that he was kidnapped by the Institute some years ago and is now an old man named Father. Well, you play a couple more missions, and then it pretty much is your time to make a decision. Who's going to get the Commonwealth? It is here I want to point out the linearity of Fallout 4. Fallout 4 does not give you many options for how the Commonwealth is going to play out. For instance, you can give it to the Minutemen, it's just the generic good guy. You can give it to the Brotherhood, you're relatively going to get the same generic good guy ending. You can give it to the Railroad, and again, pretty much, say it with me, good guy ending. Or the Institute, which is the bad guy ending, if you couldn't tell where this was going. Contrast this with New Vegas, where there is no right or wrong answer, aside from the fucking Legion. Fuck the Legion. Whereas in Fallout 4, it simply boils down to choose one of our 3 good factions or one bad faction. This really dumbs down what makes Fallout Fallout. In the Wasteland, no choice is a right one, no choice is a wrong one, because you could have the most weird reasoning for why your choice is right. I'll give you an example seen in Fallout New Vegas. Playing the Beyond the Beef mission for the first time, where we have to rescue Ted Gunderson, the son of Heck Gunderson, a Brahmin farmer in New Vegas. God, that was a mouthful, and I probably sound slow saying it, but I'm not saying it again. Ted is inevitably going to be eaten by the Ultralux Casino, and we have to rescue him. You see, when I first played this mission, I initially helped free Ted. I thought Heck and Ted to be innocent Brahmin farmers who just happened to be in New Vegas at the time with a wrong timing, wrong place type of deal. Whereas in a later playthrough, I spoke to a man outside of the Ultralux Casino who informed me that all of Heck Gunderson's wealth was built on the backs of stolen Brahmin land. So, on the second playthrough, Ted wasn't so fortunate. Fuck Ted Gunderson. In Fallout 4, there isn't really that ambiguity of choice. It's more or less, are you going to be a good guy or are you going to be a bad guy? And for me personally, that does not feel like Fallout. Now, before I stay on this section too long, we're going to move forward because I will sit here for 30 minutes. We're first going to cover the DLC of Far Harbor, where we can kind of keep this one simple. There is an island that has 3 rival tribes going after it. We have the Children of Adam, who are a group of weird bastards who worship radiation. All I know is that the bomb going off is some kind of like divine intervention thing. I don't know. They call it the Great Divide. Children of Adam worship radiation. That's all you really need to know. We then have Acadia, which is a settlement of runaway saints. It's pretty cool because Dima, Nick Valentine's lost brother, is here, which is pretty cool to get some insight on how Nick came to be Nick. And then we have Far Harbor, which is the community itself of people who have just been there their entire lives. The island itself is covered in a radioactive mist that makes it very hard to traverse through Far Harbor itself. Two of these factions want Far Harbor for themselves, the Children of Adam and the Far Harbor community, while Dima and the other synths at Acadia just want the island to remain peaceful. After the player plays through a couple of missions in the main story of Far Harbor, they must determine who will get power of Far Harbor. Will the power remain with the community of Far Harbor itself, pushing out the Children of Adam? Will it stay with the Children of Adam, who will push out the community of Far Harbor? Or will you side with Dima and the Synths, keeping peace and bothering no one? I love this DLC, and it personally may be my favorite in all of the Fallout series. I think this freedom of choice and non-linearity is such a Fallout staple that it actually is more fun to play this story than the main story. And that is such an unfortunate thing to say. Far Harbor is an amazing story, and I highly recommend it if you have not played it yet. But again, before I sit here for 45 minutes ranting, we're going to go ahead and go on to the next DLC, Nuka World. The Nuka World DLC is certainly weak. I'm not the biggest fan of Nuka World, and I think the story is very weak. The story of Nuka World goes as follows. You go to Nuka World's amusement park to find that it has been overran with raiders. You kill the raider leader, becoming the raider leader. You must then clear out 4 sections of the park for these raiders to move into. Each of these 4 sections has their own unique quest lines. It is then that you are given the choice of, do you want to still be this raider and move the job into the Commonwealth, or are you good off that and just want to keep them here in Nuka World? You could just skip all of this and also kill the raiders at the very beginning. I'm not the biggest fan of the Nuka World DLC. I think it's very cut and dry and, might I add, boring. It is legitimately good or bad. It is so black and white of an answer that it's like, why would I want to play this? And the game just doesn't give you much room for variety. It's either I want to be a raider or I don't want to be a raider. And that's just not very cool for a setting as awesome as Nuka World. In conclusion, the main story of Fallout is very cool, but it is very linear, making it overall a very mid-story. Far Harbor will go down as one of the greatest DLCs in Fallout history and is one of the better storylines they've ever produced. And Nuka World is just Nuka World. Yeah.
You want to be a raider? You want to be a raider? You want to be a raider?
Next, I want to talk about the characters in Fallout 4. And I first want to start by talking about the companions in this game. I think the companions are very well written and very likable. For instance, Nick Valentine is this almost noir-style detective, but has these funny one-liners and genuine deep emotional ties that make him an interesting character. Another example is the journalist found in Diamond City, Piper. Piper is known in Diamond City as being a nosy and annoying person. But getting to know Piper better shows you that she truly just cares about the well-being of the Commonwealth. I also love the work that they built on from New Vegas, which was giving each of these companions their own unique missions, or at least some of them. For instance, Nick Valentine has the Eddie Winters case. In the Eddie Winters mission, we have to go find a pre-war crime boss named Eddie Winter. This Eddie Winter killed the real Nick Valentine's wife some years ago, and the memories that were planted into the synth Nick has bothered him ever since. So, he has held out this vengeance to track down and kill Eddie Winter for good, and to avenge the man he got his memory from. Another example is Paladin Dance, and him finding out he's a synth, and the multiple ways we can handle this. But also, I think the rest of the characters in Fallout 4 are written very well as well. For example, Father/Sean is an amazing character who has many different beliefs. For example, he doesn't look back at the death of his mother as something tragic. He looks at it as collateral damage for the future. He sees the surface and the wasteland as something disgusting, not beautiful. Or Kellogg, a man that we come to find has multiple layers and suffered childhood abuse, as well as the loss of his family due to the work he was doing. Also, I think Kellogg's backstory is going to show us a little hint towards where Fallout 5 is going to be.
San Francisco!
And it doesn't stop there. Even in the Far Harbor DLC, all of the characters are pretty cool. Spoiler alert for what I'm about to say. Probably should have put that in earlier, but meeting Captain Avery and noticing that she is way nicer than the rest of Far Harbor, only to come out to find that she has been a synth this entire time, is one of the most shocking yet funny reveals to me. I mean, legitimately, almost everyone in this town is a dickhead, but Captain Avery. And it is because she is a literal robot. And of course, the main attraction from Far Harbor, Dima. Dima is so interesting because you don't know whether he is just a fluently speaking con robot or a trustworthy synth who just wants peace for the island. He reveals some pretty cool stuff along the way as well, such as the fact that he and Nick are long lost brothers and that he actually helped Nick escape the Institute. Or the fact that he killed Captain Avery for peace to remain in Far Harbor. And also, another spoiler alert, he's willing to kill the High Priest of the Children of Adam to ensure the same thing. All of this makes Dima one of, if not the most interesting character in Fallout 4. So again, I will stop glazing Far Harbor just for time's sake, but if you guys want a video on just this DLC alone, I'm so down. Now on to Nuka World again, where unfortunately most of the characters are mid here. For example, you meet all of the factions and the heads of these factions, but I cannot even tell you the guys' names. You have one conversation with them, and unless you decide to continue to be a raider, which I did not, you just don't interact with them very much. Now, I will say, I had a fun time killing the leader of every one of them, because I noticed they were all smartasses the first time we talked, so... But I would regret it if I didn't mention the two characters that I do like from this DLC. Number one, Cedo. He's just a fucking caveman that has been raised by gorillas his entire life. That is so fucking cool. Dude, look at him. Why isn't he a permanent companion? I'm trading fucking Deacon for this guy all day. Also, John Caleb Bradburton, the head of Nuka World itself. When we meet John Caleb Bradburton, he's not very regretful of his decisions. Just more of a selfish, doesn't want to live this way anymore type of deal. Fuck the guy. He's kind of like the embodiment of greed. They're gonna stop now, I promise. Fuck John Caleb Bradburton. But he is a cool character, at the least. So to wrap this section up, the main characters of Fallout 4 and Far Harbor are written very well. They have depth, they have layers, and they have personality. Unfortunately, in the Nuka World DLC, only 2 of those characters have depth and personality and layers. And even then, Cedo doesn't even have layers. He just man. Man hungry. He eat. He no hungry. God bless you, Cedo. And fuck John Caleb Bradburton. Lastly, we're going to talk about the mechanics of Fallout 4. And this is where I will truly be able to distinguish to you what makes this a great game, but a bad Fallout. First, I want to start with giving credit to Fallout 4 and its combat system. This is without a doubt the best combat system in any Fallout game. If you question that, I would highly recommend go back and play the old games like I've been doing recently and tell me that you enjoy the no crosshairs with a straight face. And sure, you could say there's less of an emphasis on VATS, which is certainly true in this game, but I am willing to take the trade-off if it means having a combat system 1,000,000 times better than the old games. Also, very simple, they added fucking sprint. It should have been in the game from the jump. I'm not going to stay too long on it, but fuck, go back and play any of the old games without a sprint mod. Also, full credit where it's due, the crafting systems work much better in Fallout 4 in my opinion. I think there's way more variety in what you're able to craft, and honestly, it just seems a lot more simple. I don't know if that last part's in my head only, or if it's true, but it does just feel a whole lot more simple in Fallout 4, whereas in New Vegas or 3, it honestly seems not complicated, just, yeah, a little complicated. Like, I always have to have what I need to craft in my inventory, and sometimes it gets a little confusing in the old games. You know what, I may be fucking stupid, and this may be a minute point, but that does lead me to talk about the settlement system in Fallout 4. This is ultimately where players will love Fallout 4 or hate Fallout 4. The settlement system is one that I personally don't enjoy, but I could see the appeal. For example, it is very fun to just sit around building your own settlement on Fallout 4. It honestly can take hours out of your day and you won't even notice it. But then, at some point during that playthrough, you will start to notice you're playing a Fallout game, not a settlement builder. Which is ultimately the reason I feel the way I do about settlement building. It's not Fallout. The fun of Fallout games is that your experience may be different from mine. That is the beauty in Fallout. For example, in Fallout 3, whereas I may walk into Megaton and love the city and defuse the bomb in minutes, whereas you may think it's an eyesore on the wasteland and go work with your buddy Mr. Burke and make sure it's blown to nothing. That is the beauty of Fallout. But Fallout 4 very heavily leans into the settlement building. Meaning, sure, our settlements may look different, but you're going to say that your experience entailed settlement building, and I'm also going to say that my experience entailed settlement building. It is at its core not what Fallout is. Fallout at its core is essentially about sending a helpless wastelander out into the wasteland for them to learn the skills, the traits necessary to survive in this world. Whereas with settlement building in Fallout 4, the main attention is focused on how quickly can you immediately build a settlement that will sustain you over the course of this playthrough. I'm going to get off the settlement building now because I'll get stuck on a rant about that, but at its core, it is also one of the biggest issues of why this game does not feel like Fallout. Another gripe about the mechanics I do not like is the perk tree instead of the normal skills that we're used to. In the old Fallout games, every 2 level ups you would get a certain skill you could attribute to your character. It made it fun for building certain characters in your world. For example, even in a mostly linear game like Fallout 3, the character builds and skills gave you enough of a different variety that you could have different experiences during the game. And again, in Fallout New Vegas, not going to get stuck on this for too long because I could, there are hundreds of thousands of ways you could play this game. It is ridiculous. And a lot of the different experiences you can play with are based on the character building system. I think it's very dumb. And I think it overall just incentivizes the player to level up rather than experience the game to level up. Again, not going to stay on this point too long. This video could get outrageously long. So I'll leave it at that. But not a big fan of the skill tree either. Please tell me you guys heard the Discord notification. I really hope so. A couple of smaller gripes I just want to point out. One, the voice protagonist is Dick. There's so many times where his tone doesn't match what I'm talking about. Or I say something that I totally did not mean to say.
This is insane. All of it.
This all just makes for a very bad experience in terms of dialogue, and it is not as fun to talk to players in this game as it is in older Fallouts. In the older Fallouts, there was a multitude of options you had in conversations to discuss with these different characters. Whereas in Fallout 4, it's generic good answer A, generic bad person answer, question, sarcasm. Again, this does not help Fallout 4's case in it being a good Fallout. A game series built on individual choices now has a voiced character with a set story of finding his son. It backs the player into a corner where their decisions are left or right rather than left, center, right, left, right, center, right, left, center, fine. Another small gripe that strictly could be personal is the lack of repair system found in Fallout 4. Personally, when I first started playing New Vegas in Fallout 3, I didn't like the repair system. I thought that it was annoying that I had to repeatedly keep repairing the guns. Until moments would spur up where one gun was way too damaged for me to use, and then I would have to use something else in my arsenal to finish off the enemies. Whereas in Fallout 4, if you get a good weapon at like level 12, chances are you won't be using much of anything else. For example, I found a combat rifle and an assault rifle that I respectively named Betsy and Otis, and I used these until I was level 50. I found them on level 12. So for me personally, I think that the repair system would have done Fallout 4 some favors here. And I completely understand the settlement system kind of takes away from that because so much of your focus is built into getting materials for that and not repairing your weapons.
Which is why it shouldn't be in the game.
And here's one last point before I finish off this section and lead to the conclusion. Fuck helping the Minutemen. The only thing you get from helping the Minutemen is butt fucked with notifications on helping settlements. So, yeah, that sums up this section. It's mainly the mechanics' fault for why Fallout 4 isn't a good Fallout game. Newer players will prefer the simpler perk tree system and the settlement building, whereas older players will prefer the skills and trait system and the open exploration of the wasteland itself and the meeting new characters and settlements. Let's just wrap this up in the conclusion. In conclusion, Fallout 4 has numerous features that make it a great game. For example, the gorgeous game world, the amazing combat system, the way more in-depth crafting system. Hell, even the settlement building system makes it a great game. But it is also some of those features that make it a bad Fallout. The dumbed down perk tree system instead of the skill system that we've come to love, the voice protagonist being absolute dick, and the lack of repair system. It is for these reasons that Fallout 4 is a great game for the masses to get their hands on. Once they do, they will fall in love with Fallout because of this amazing introductory game that isn't too in-depth. But who's to say that if a fan didn't have this same exact game with some tweaks to maybe fit more RPG elements and non-linearity into the story, that they wouldn't fall in love even more. Overall, my review of Fallout 4 is this. It is not a game that I am constantly coming back to in the series, but it is certainly one that I will pick up and play every now and again, because this isn't a bad game. It's just a bad Fallout. And I know some of you grimy fuckers want a number score, so 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. That's what we're going to give Fallout 4 today. Anyways, if you've enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Also share the video if you enjoyed. Anyways, I'm going to cut the bullshit. Have a good one.
Another settlement